Chattel, and I am the executive director of the nonprofit Medical Education Institute. And we are so passionate about the ability of home dialysis to make people's lives better that we launched Home Dialysis Central website in 2004, 21 years ago now. So that website is now an adult. It is great to see everybody. Our sponsor for this webinar is Next Stage Medical. And I mentioned this before, but please note that if you are on Facebook, you can't use the live chat to ask us questions, but you can use the Q&A, and we will check both. So we are really glad to be together with you to share information about fitting home dialysis into your life. And this topic gives us a chance to talk about the nuts and bolts of things like choice and schedules and space. So I am excited to have our guests introduce themselves. I'm actually going to quick start with Jen, who works with me.
So I'm Jen. I'm a registered nurse. I spent 10 years teaching home hemodialysis and PD, and then I came over to MEI and I'm program director here. And I've been very inspired by Dory and by all the work MEI has done. So I'm very happy to just keep putting it out into the world.
Inspired. She's definitely still with us.
Yes, yes. I came, I stayed. I'm trying to conquer.
Okay, Melissa, how about you? Can you tell us a little bit about you and how you ended up on your first treatment that I don't want to say chose because I'm not sure you actually got to choose it, but I know choice is important to you and I love what you have to say about that. So tell us a little more.
Fantastic. My name is Melissa Neely. I'm here in Kansas City, and I am the oldest of six children. I have four children of my own. I have five grandsons. We just had the most recent grandson 2 weeks ago. His name is Messiah.
Oh,
My journey started in 2001. I was feeling really fatigued and tired, and we didn't know why. And I was just like, wait a minute. And so one day, me and my daughter were going to TJ Maxx, and she let me out at the front, right there in front of the door. I didn't have enough energy to get to the door. She said, "Mama, no, something's not right." Took me to the ER, and I had so much fluid buildup, is what it was really going on, that they couldn't tell whether it was from the kidneys or from the heart. So they began to tell me that I had kidney failure. Then they said I had heart failure, and so it began to be this journey in the ER. And they admitted me and did a biopsy, and found out that uh, my kidneys were actually really low functioning. And then I talked to the heart doctor, the nephrologist, and she said, it looks like you're going to need dialysis sooner than later. And I was like, what? What does that mean? And so I was kind of like stuck because I was like, oh my goodness. Usually when I hear something I don't understand, I'm so quick to Google it and research it and dig and dig and dig. Like Jen said, going down a rabbit hole because I want to know everything. And they came and told me that I would have to do dialysis. That was like maybe, I would say that was January-ish. And by June, um, I had fluid again that was really, really bad. And so they said, we can't let you leave the hospital until we find you a chair in the community, i.e., find you a dialysis clinic. And there was no choice. There was no conversation. There was just you need dialysis and we're going to keep you. We're not going to release you until you go into do it in the center. So I began to do it in center June 21, 2021. Um, and in center was interesting. And then I eventually heard about home dialysis. And all I heard was the word home. And I got stuck there. I don't know whether it said home therapy, home dialysis, but I just heard the word home, that I could do this at home, that I had another choice. And I immediately asked them to sign me up and get me going. And I trained for a week, and then I started home dialysis in October 21.
So you
So
do
that's a little
PD.
bit. Yes, and I did PD. My home it went from in center to PD, and I fell in love with PD, fell in love with being at home, fell in love with getting my autonomy back, fell in love with putting choices back on my vision board. That I have choices, and so it was really exciting for me to do PD. So that's a little bit about the beginning of my journey.
Did you ever get a cause for your kidney failure?
Um, I I got some speculation, right? What had happened was I had got shingles, and there's a nerve that runs kind of like not quite in the center of the head, but there's a nerve here that ran down, and I had shingles in my eye
Ooh.
and here on my forehead. And because I took so much naproxen, right? I think it's Advil. I took so much of
Oh,
that at that
wow.
time. Plus, I had diabetes, which was, not a major cause, but because of the
But the
taking
two
all of the
together
naproxen, those
got,
two
yeah.
things, the naproxen pushed me over the edge
Yeah.
of having the low functioning kidneys. Yeah, that really made me spiral down really fast because they really couldn't get rid. They was trying to get rid of the shingles, but because it was in a nerve that was in the back of my eye, my whole face swelled up. I looked like a Lion King because my face was so swollen from the shingles.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow. So yeah, pretty interesting. And
Yeah,
they said I
sometimes
could have took an eye out, but I didn't,
some
thank God.
ooh. Ooh,
Ooh.
yeah, sometimes what we don't know can hurt us, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Christina, tell us about you and your journey because you've done all kinds of different treatments over the years.
Yeah. So I've been at this a little longer. I actually found out I had a kidney disease when I was 12 years old, just for a regular sports physical. They didn't know what the disease was, but I had a
Hmm.
disease. I went on to live normal. And when I was 22, I got pregnant. And during that pregnancy, I developed toxemia, which is also preeclampsia. And my doctor didn't catch it. So I end up having seizures.
Ooh.
And yes. And during those seizures, my capillaries and my blood vessels in my eyes all burst. And so I ended up being legally blind. I was completely blind for about 6 months. I went on some medication. We kind of cleared out the excess blood. And I was left with, I have no central vision. So everyone's looked at the sun. You get that little temporary blind spot. I have that. It never goes away. And it's just a little bigger than the sun. So I can't drive, but I can still get around pretty good. So it's a lot. Being that I went 6 months with no eyesight, I appreciate what I have. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and my hypertension just went through the roof. We could not get it down for anything, and so I ended up going into kidney failure. I live in Utah, and so I have 8 siblings. Yeah, we have big families. Yep. As soon as I found out I had a disease when I was a kid, I started calling all my siblings kidney because I would jokingly just be like, "You're only here for your kidneys." Yeah. So my oldest brother Brian ended up being a perfect match for me. And December 9th of 2008, I got my first kidney transplant. And at that time, I jokingly teased people and said I got a drive-through kidney because that part actually seemed really easy. But I spoke too soon because I rejected that kidney, and we tried to fight it for a while. We were unable to. I had to have that kidney removed, and I started in-center dialysis. I did 5.5 years of in-center dialysis, and I was a single mom through those 5.5 years. So it definitely complicated the process. Walking my daughter to school, walking to practices, those were all things that I just had to do, whether I felt good or not. And
Or could see or not.
exactly. And my feet worked, so get up and go. And so after those 5.5 years, I got that amazing phone call. There was a kidney waiting for me. So May 7th of 2016, I got my second kidney transplant. And that's when kind of life started. I started dating. That's when I met Michael. And then I found out I was rejecting again. And so we tried to fight that a little harder the second time, but again, we were unable to save that kidney. We had to have that one removed as well. And this time I was a little more educated, so I was more knowledgeable. I did have to go to 5 different doctors who all told me no, I couldn't do dialysis. I could not go home on dialysis because of my eyesight. And I kept pushing because that wasn't good enough for me. And I went back to my old doctor and I broke him down and we did home dialysis. And I'm very proud to say I did PD. I set it up 100% on my own. I broke it down on
Good
my
for
own
you.
for 3 years without one infection. And I'm very proud of that. And I also, I got my life back with PD. And so when I found out after 3 years that my abdominal adhesion wasn't allowing me to do PD anymore, I went straight to home hemo. And I went to daytime home hemo for the first year. And then I decided to try nocturnal home hemo. So I've now been doing nocturnal home hemo for almost 2.5 years. And my health is improving, and every day I feel like I'm stronger and stronger.
That is a lot of story. Thank you.
It's kind of hard
Wow.
to make that short.
Well, no, you did. You did a great job. I think what's really helpful is when you have and you both of you have had experience of doing more than one option, and that gives you some perspective. And not everybody has that, and there's certain research that we try to do where we deliberately pick people who have had done more than one treatment because you learn something from each one that you do. And part of what you learn is what works for your life and what doesn't so much work for your life. And a focus that we have at MEI is very much about what matters to you. If your kidneys fail and you have to choose an option, and there are 7 ways to do dialysis, right? There's 2 ways to do PD, manual and cycler, and there's 5 ways to do hemo. You can do it in center during the day, you can do it in center at night if you can find it. It's hard to find. You can do conventional hemo at home. That's fairly rare these days. You can do daily hemo at home. You can do nocturnal hemo at home. That's 7. Plus, there's transplant and there's conservative management. So there's like a lot of options. But often it seems like people don't hear about the options and they don't get to make an active choice. And what we think is that the most important things to think about when you need to make a choice of a bunch of options, none of which may look good. I mean, if you didn't have kidney failure, you would not line up to get any of the options, right? You'd be like, yeah, no, maybe later, maybe some other time. I'm just fine not doing any kind of dialysis or transplant. But when that choice comes, or when that event comes, and there are choices, A, it's super important that you find out what they are, and B, it's really important that you match them to what matters in your life. So I'm really interested to know, and let's start with Melissa. How did the in-center hemo that you started with fit what mattered to you in your life versus the PD that you switched to? Like, what was important to your life and what fit better and why?
What was important to me was to, one, keep my autonomy, and two, have a quality of life doing what I call regular business hours, right? Like during the daytime, could I still go and pay my bills? Could I still go to my grandson's games? I have 4 grandsons. They all are in, oh my goodness, everything: basketball, football, and track. And so imagine 4 grandsons, 3 different schools, doing all those things. And I want to be able to still, be Gigi, which is a gorgeous grandma. I want to still be able to do those things with my family. My family time was important to me. Being able to access life during the daytime was important to me. And
Mm,
so within center, um, going those 3 days and then recuperating those 4 days, was very interesting because I could not do the same things that I did on PD. So
Mhm.
with PD, I could do it at night when I get ready on my time schedule, and I could
Mhm.
still be amazing Gigi during the daytime, going to my kids' school, going to their events at school, and plus my daughter does cheerleading, so she's like, uh, so on top of that, with the five grandsons, she was a cheerleader, and she wanted me to be at all of her games to um, support her. Plus, I'm what I call the family photographer. So
Mhm.
in any
I am
event that
too.
happens in my family, right, I'm always taking pictures and making some little album with music and all of that. And so I try to be as active as I can with my family because I didn't always live here. I used to live in Illinois. I went to school there and never came back. And then maybe October 2000, I mean October 2020 is when I got to Kansas City. So imagine getting here and then a year later, you know, the shingles are happening and then learning that. So, but with PD, I get so many amazing choices regarding my time, what I
Mhm.
do with my time, and when I do it with my time. And that was the biggest thing for me was what is going on with my time. And so PD was this perfect fit, right? Yes, my kidneys don't work. I have a choice. Yes, I need to do dialysis and I have a choice. Yes, I want to be the most amazing Gigi that I can. So because of dialysis, I still have choices. No matter what's going on in my life, I have choices, and that is so important to me.
So it sounds like you not only got back your autonomy and your control of your schedule, but you also got more energy.
Oh, absolutely. The energy difference is like almost night and day because when with the in center, I was like recuperating, right, the rest of that day, plus the next day. And once I thought I was kind of like back on the energy, nope, you got to go back to in center. So in center does what it does, but with PD, oh my goodness, like to leave my house without a cane is PD, to leave my house with a cane was in center.
Yeah.
And the cane thing bothered me because my both my parents have canes. And I'm like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, I really don't want to
I'm
go
turning
out.
into
So
my
I just,
mom.
yes, oh my goodness. Plus, I want to be able to take care of them. I can't take
Right.
care of them y'all on canes. So the cane thing really was like a big deal. And yes, my energy level is it's not where it's not exactly 100%, but I would say I'm at 90. And with
Yeah.
low functioning kidneys and dialysis, people tell me, Melissa, when we see you and hear you and interact with you, we would never have known you were on dialysis ever. You always look amazing. You
Agreed.
always
Yeah.
like be with
I
great energy.
I
And
would
I,
not pick you
yeah,
out of a crowd as somebody on dialysis. And there absolutely are people I can pick out of a crowd as I'm guessing you're on dialysis. So yeah, you would not be on
exactly.
my you would not be
When
on
I
my
go
list.
when I go to in center for my labs and see my nephrologist and people are in the waiting area, I always speak to them. But to me, they always looks like you said, you could tell. And when I
Hmm.
go in there, I try to always, like I said, maybe even have my makeup on if I feel like it. But if I don't, at least have on lip gloss and my big earbobs and try to really feel like my old self because I used to be this international trainer, right? And I was always traveling all over the well, national. I was always traveling all over the U.S. training and talking about, being able to protect your family and oh my goodness. And so now it's like I'm not traveling like that anymore. I'm not
Hmm.
trained like that anymore. And then I said, and yes, I still have my life. And yes, I still have choices. And yes, I get to now interact more with my parents and with
Hmm.
my grandparents and with my grandchildren. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, okay, God, you brought me back to Kansas and you really set me down on my butt with this dialysis. You really said, let's slow it down. And so now I really am learning even the more how amazing being with my family is. And so it's very exciting.
Fantastic. Christina, you've
Yes.
done all these different options. Did you think about at each point where you went from one to another, did you think about what was important to you? Was that something kind of on the radar screen, or was it just, all right, I tried that and now I am ready to try something else? I wonder
So
if the concept of fit really sort of comes up yet.
yeah, so yeah, I have had multiple transitions, and one thing I'd like to tell people is expect to change your modality at
Yes.
least once or twice through this process. Do not get set that this one fit that I have right now is all that's ever going to happen, because your body will change, your life will change. And so be open-minded as you continue to do dialysis, okay? And so for me, yeah, there were so many different things. When I went in center, when I started in center, I knew that there was this thing called PD. I asked my doctor, hey, can I do PD? And he said, no, you're blind. You can't do it. I just took that and let that be my answer. And so one thing I think the biggest thing is just be your advocate. When you go in there, speak up, ask your questions, okay? And if you don't know the questions, find out the questions before you go and write them down so you feel comfortable. But I have really had to change my modalities. For me, it's been based on my life. And when I was in center, I was a single mom, and if I had known that I could have pulled off PD, I would have done PD in a heartbeat if I would have known it was a choice. But PD, when that became an option for me, it was kind of my, I knew if I had gone back on in center that I was going to go back to what I called the zombie Christina, where I was in a brain fog all the time, and I wasn't able to even retain positive memories of my family, and so it was not just even the physical me, like there was the emotional side of me was always affected by this as well. And so PD for me, it gave me such an empowerment internally and my body. And then when that's changing, again, you start to think, oh my gosh, that control is going to be taken away, and that fear kind of kicks back in. And so I suggest to everyone, please do your homework on other modalities ahead of time so you're not so caught off guard. When we started home hemo, guys, we were more prepared. We knew what to expect, and that made that transition so much smoother. And for me and my husband, the reason we tried nocturnal is because he works very long days at work. He would get home from work, we would jump on the machine, and by the time we're done, it's bedtime. And we were not getting any quality time together. So switching to nocturnal for us was really a gift to our marriage because we got to get each other back. And so yeah, like just take the time and consider what's important to me right now. What do I really need in my life? And be open to change.
Yeah, which is, I think it's really important advice and really can be really challenging to do because change can be hard and change you don't want is the hardest kind. We built a tool that helps people figure out what might make your life work best. So when you don't know among the 7 different kinds of dialysis and transplant and conservative management, kind of depending on where you are with your life and what other illnesses you might have and how much pain you're in, it helps to have something that will kind of map it out for you. So our tool is called My Kidney Life Plan, and it's free online in English and in Spanish, and it's very easy to read on purpose because we know that people who have to make these choices can really be in crisis. This can be a lot and scary, and so we made it very straightforward, and it starts with 23 different, values and such. And the idea is, well, what does matter to me? Because sometimes you don't really think about what matters to you until it's all threatened. And then you got all those emotions going on, and you're like, uh, I don't know what's important, so it actually gives a list that comes from other people who had to make the same choices. So I know Melissa likes that tool because we talked about it earlier. Is that something that you're sharing with folks, Melissa?
Absolutely. I just
Good.
found out about it recently, and when I saw it, it almost brought tears to my eyes because I'm thinking, oh my God, where was this in 2021 when I was making when I was trying to figure it out? I wasn't even sure that I could make a choice, but at least I was trying to figure it out. So for me, I would want the world to know about my kidney. Like people just don't know that we don't know what we don't know, right? And so
Yes, that's so
knowing that
true.
we could choose, like, oh my goodness. And then when I say I can choose, this is a perfect starting place for anyone that has been told that their kidneys are low functioning. I tell people to ask their doctor to test their kidneys to see what's going on with their kidneys so that they know their number. Like start out now knowing your body, understanding your own lab results so
Hmm.
that you can really get a full picture. And once you know what's going on with your kidneys from your doctor, use this tool to try to figure out, maybe even ahead of time, what you need and what best fits your life. Until today, I didn't even know there were 7 different ways to do dialysis. I'm like, what?
That
7
does
different
shock a
ways?
lot of people. Everybody's
Oh,
everybody's used to, well, there's PD and there's hemo. Like, yeah,
Uh-huh.
oh
but
my
there's
goodness.
two
Oh yeah,
ways to do PD and 5 ways to do hemo. And
I
you know,
I, I wrote that down. I'm going to tell
yeah.
everybody I know. I would love to like wear a billboard and just stand outside so that
We'll have
people
one made for you.
understand. Yes, people really understand the power that they have because when you're in fear land, when you're in
Mhm.
your
Yep,
body is breaking down land,
yep.
sometimes you just stay there and you're trembling and you're shaking and you don't know what to reach for next or what kind of information to get or where to get it from. And I would love just to be a fly on the wall with anyone that's being told their kidneys are low functioning so
We
they
we
can use
we
this
did
plan now.
that. We actually did that study, Melissa. We actually put, I mean, obviously we have permission from everybody, but we did a study where we got 8 different nephrologists to agree to let us put recording devices in when they told, it ended up being, I think, 63 different people, what we're doing to slow your CKD isn't working and you're going to have to make a choice. Guess what percent of those 63 interactions the nephrologist asked folks anything about their lifestyle or their values?
None.
I'm sure
Yeah,
very little of them. Yes.
not a single one. It
I say
wasn't
none.
on the radar screen. So we did a follow-up study, and in that study, about 13% of people were interested in a home therapy. So they're terrified, they're in the fear place. When you're in the fear place, you can freeze, you can flee, you can fight, but you can't learn. Your brain can't take in anything.
I
So,
always like to tell people though, I always like to tell people that like to kind of as there's going to be a lot of fear through this entire process. And so
and it's going to come back and come back and come back at different
you
points.
gotta you gotta use that though. Like you can't let it defeat you through this process because there are still like I've been doing this for over 20 years actively, and there are still times where I think, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this, and this is going to be it's going to be in your life. So instead of fearing things, start embracing them and know that each time these things do happen, you are going to grow, you are going to get stronger. And fear is a good thing, especially for at home patients, because if you still have that fear, you're going to do things right. You're going to do the right steps. You're going to follow what you are trained to do. And that's good because we all need that healthy little bit of fear to make sure we do this properly and we do the steps and we make sure mentally we're correct for this. So let that fear work for you.
So, Jen, have you
Absolutely.
have you seen that working with folks who do PD and home HD?
I have, and I have funny little things that I say about that. So, for example, for PD, I talk about the 1 second of sheer terror when you
Oh
make
yeah,
your connections,
I
and
love
how
that.
that connection needs to be absolutely perfect every single time. But once the connection is made, we can kind of take a deep breath and relax a little bit. So I call it the 1 second of sheer terror, just to acknowledge what it is, and we make our perfectly clean connections, and we go about the rest of our day. And I have similar things like with hemo. For example, when I teach people how to decannulate for the first time, it doesn't even look safe. It doesn't even look normal the first few times you see somebody pull their own needles. So I always I kind of used to teach something like, I'm going to stand outside of the splash zone. And I would tell a story about SeaWorld and getting splashed by an orca when I was a little kid. And I would just kind of do this to add a little bit of levity to the situation, so that in case we got a little bleeder, nobody was too freaked out. But it's using the fear and then also kind of combating it with information and a little bit of hope and a little bit of humor. Because I think humor is a really good coping mechanism. And the people who tend to be the most resilient, I think, are the funniest as well.
I think, to be honest, being that I was a single mom when I went through like all of my in-center journey and all of that, I really relied on humor, and I really relied on if I could make it funny. When I was fighting my rejection, I did chemo, and I woke up with a chunk of my hair on my pillow, you know. And so first idea in my mind is how can I make this really cool for my daughter so she can like think that this is a cool thing instead of a bad thing. And so we went to a salon together and we both did the pink haircut where it was just spiked, and I dyed mine purple and she dyed hers pink. And we made it fun instead of making it miserable. And that's what really has gotten me through this is laugh. Instead of crying, just choose laughing.
That's a lot of
Choose.
choices. That's a lot of
Exactly.
choices, which is
Yes.
beautiful.
That
Yes,
that is
we
a
need
really
that.
important choice. And
Don't-
I think the choice is a theme through all of this, and that's so important. Let me ask you, I'll start with Christina because you've done PD and now you're doing nocturnal hemo. We talked about kind of how you fit dialysis into your life around, and how you could make a choice based on what matters to you. How do you fit it into your house? How do you make it fit in the room? What sort of things have you done so that it doesn't take over? Because there's some folks who don't do home therapies because they don't want to turn their houses into hospitals.
Yeah. So
Have to
I
do
hear
that,
that.
or are there tricks?
No, there are tricks, guys. And like there are tricks for everyone. Like do not let storage be the reason that you don't do this. So let's just say you don't have a kitchen table. Get those boxes that you store, put them all together, put a towel over it. You got a kitchen table now. Think outside the box, you know? You don't have to have a hospital at home. Like I am very fortunate that I have a room where I store all my stuff, but my bedroom is really small. And so I don't want my machine and my pure flow in there all the time. You know, I just don't want to have to move around it. And so what we do is we actually wheel my machine, which I will show you guys right here. We wheel my machine into the kitchen,
Uh-huh.
and that's where we hook it up to the water and we actually start the pure flow and we make our sack. But then at night when we're doing dialysis, we unhook all of that. It's on wheels, so we push it into the bedroom. We plug it in and we do dialysis in the bedroom. So this is something where really like you can customize this to what fits for you guys. If you've got a smaller space, then let's just think outside the box and let's make it work.
How did nocturnal hemo compare to when you were on PD in terms of supplies?
So it's interesting because the supplies they are different with PD and hemo, and believe it or not, you actually get more supplies with PD than you do with hemo. Hemo is probably about half, and that's because with
That's
hemo
what I
you have
thought.
your pure flow. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you have your pure flow, so that's going to make most of your dialysate, so your liquid that you're using. And so with PD, you definitely get the shock is the first shipment, and
Yes.
they try to warn you about this and they'll say like, oh, whoa, be ready. But like really talk to be open with the people that are setting you up. Talk to your team, use them because they're amazing. But be open with them and say, hey, I cannot handle getting this many boxes. Can we break this up in two? Talk to them because there are ways to work around it. You know, if you can handle all of it, that's great. If you can't, talk to them. Do not let that be the reason that you don't go home. And if you don't want it to look like a hospital, guys, fancy that thing up. I'll let all of you know, if you were to see all my posts online, I decorate my machine for every holiday
Oh,
because she needs to be pretty, right? And I decorated for Halloween last year. It had handprints of blood all over it, and it said, yeah, and
Yes.
it said, who will go home next?
nice. All right.
Yeah, so yeah, like make it part of your home. This doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be anything really. It can be whatever you make of it.
And Melissa, how are you fitting the PD in? How are you making it work for you? And are there any handprints on your cycler?
No handprints on my cycler, but I did name her.
Yet.
Her name is Right, not yet. I just I like a really great idea. I did name her. Her name is Baby. And I
Oh,
tell myself I gotta
Aw.
go home and take care of Baby, or I gotta go home and see about Baby. Meaning I gotta go home and do dialysis. So I call her Baby, and I have my machine in a corner of my bedroom, so it doesn't take up a whole bunch of space. So it's kind of in the corner. And when it's not in use, I may put some colorful cloth over the top of it so that it kind of matches what's going on in the room. Then my supplies are in a separate room. Before
nice.
here, my supplies were in the basement on a pallet.
Hmm.
Then I had like those little storage cubicles you get at Walmart where you put the
Hmm.
little cloth drawers. I had one of those with 6 drawers, and so all of my supplies went in that. And so you could never tell because it looked like a part of the furniture in the room. And
Hmm.
then I store my boxes in a bedroom, and I try to keep it as simple and as fun as possible. I try to keep when I'm not doing dialysis, and I don't want to see any dialysis stuff. And so I do it. I unveil my baby at night.
Nice.
Uh-huh. I
I
love
I
that.
I know some folks who use those underbed plastic drawers with the wheels. They'll
Yep.
My
take the
mom's
bags,
trick.
right? Take the bags out of the boxes, and obviously want to keep track of which kind of bag you're putting in. You don't want to mix them up in the bin, but you can store away a shocking amount of stuff under a bed, especially if you take them out of the boxes. And the
Yeah.
expiration date is on each bag, so you're not losing any critical information. But
Great
yeah, so you
idea.
can you can have home dialysis without home hospital is kind of what
Yes.
I'm hearing.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we watched the show called, the new home edition when they go into people's homes and they change it and they systemize it and they organize it and all those good things. I think the
I
same
need
way
those
with
people to come to
home
my house.
dialysis. You can change it and make it happen.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of people who've been just really creative about how they've made it work. I like the kitchen table idea. Um, sometimes people
Yeah.
just line them up along a wall and, throw a sheet over the whole wall full of them and,
Hmm.
or you make a couch out of it,
Yeah.
But
It's
for
Yeah.
me, the
modular.
dining room table is a
Uh-huh.
great place because most
Yeah,
people don't use their dining room tables, and it's this
that's
huge
true.
place people or as a dining room table on its own
Yeah,
with a
you don't need the
tablecloth. It
table,
was
just the
awesome.
I
couch.
I actually, my husband one year took all of my dialysis boxes and he cut a hole in the side of each of them, and he wrapped them all and put presents in them and made me literally a wall-sized advent calendar.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Nice.
What
So
Wow.
a
have
great idea. I love that.
yeah, it was I'd been feeling really sick that year, and so he went big, all right.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
So
that's
nice.
so
It's awesome.
sweet.
and that's kind of like, I think when I started PD, it was, for me, it wasn't just like life. It was like it opened my mind to everything, and it made me realize that, like, really, like, we put ourselves in boxes, and the medical world has really been put in a box, a very strict box, for a long time, and so we think it has to be done one way. But now we're kind of learning that there is such a flexibility to it, and with like next stage and with MEI, and having, like, you don't know the questions until you know the questions. With MII, I mean, MEI, you don't need to know the questions anymore. You just get to go on there, read them, and you're prepared. So, like, the whole idea of dialysis has changed, and being informed is everything at this point. So, like, for me, these tools, like, when I started dialysis, I was a clueless 22-year-old girl that had to walk in all by myself, and I wasn't even told to bring a blanket. I had no idea I would even get cold, you know? And like I think back to that and it just makes me so sad for that little girl because it was terrifying. And so to know that this website is there and it's just at your fingertips, like it's amazing to me. And so like really, I really suggest to patients get on there, go around, like tour this whole website, check everything out, be informed because that's the best thing you can do for your health.
That is what gives you back the control. The more
Yes.
Absolutely.
you know, the more
Absolutely.
you can make choices that fit your life and fit your house. And you have a dog, Christina, right?
I do. I
Yeah,
actually
because
now have two.
yeah, okay, we didn't meet you at ASN, but we saw you guys go by and we saw, I think we petted your dog. So how, I know there's a lot of people who have the misconception that you can't do home dialysis if you have a pet. Do you have any pets, Melissa?
No, I do not have pets.
Okay.
My parents do, but I do not. And I wanted to just piggyback on the last thing about the power of choice. When you're getting your supplies ordered, like Christina said, you could like for PD, we can either do 14 days or 28 days.
Right.
They can deliver every 2 weeks, or they can deliver once a month. And so it just depends on where you want to store, your ability to store. But again, the key word here is there's choice. So I
Yeah.
get mine once a month, and it's in it, and I get to make the order of what I need. So I am again choosing how many boxes do I need. So choice. So I don't have any
And
allergies.
we actually have a couple that's friends with both of Melissa and I, and their names are Don and Jimmy, and they
Oh,
actually
we know Don
do
and
this.
Jimmy
They do this in an RV,
in an
guys.
RV all over the
They
country.
they live 100% of their time in an RV, and they do
And
Yes,
home
and he
chemo.
does treatment 7 days a week because
yes.
Yes,
Jimmy feels best when he does it every day.
yes.
Yeah,
So
it's wild.
so
It's a
it's
big
possible.
RV. It's not a little
It's
tiny
gorgeous.
RV. It's a
Oh
It,
yeah, it's a big
Oh,
massive.
RV.
it's so
she's
yeah,
pretty.
especially
She's
the new
pretty.
one.
Oh yeah, she's
She's real
pretty.
pretty.
Yeah, but
Yes.
yeah,
And
I
also
mean,
on the dogs.
yeah,
So
yeah.
here it's actually really cute because um we've actually Moose has gotten used to us putting our face masks on. And so as
Moose.
soon as we put the face mask on, he literally will leave the room and he'll sit in the hallway. And I just got a new dog a couple months ago because
What a
some people
good
know
boy.
some people know that I've had an improvement in my vision. And so Moose is retired. And so I got him a little best friend. And so now she's
Oh,
doing it with him because she follows him and she sits
Oh,
Oh,
in the
oh,
hallway. Yeah.
that's
So,
so
and
great.
it's like we were saying earlier, you have that like, that whole like 1 second of terror, after that 1 second of terror is over, bring your animals back in.
Yeah,
and
as
the
long as they
kids
don't
too. Like, have you
chew
guys
on it.
normalized it with your kids
Oh,
around children?
I had the most beautiful thing happen. The first day I did dialysis was on Christmas Eve, home hemo. And I had my entire family over for our dinner. And before that, I hid being sick to all of my family because I thought it made me look weak. And that day I did dialysis at the kitchen table in front of everyone in my family. And the absolute coolest thing ever happened. We had the little kids pushing the blood pressure cuff. We taught the teenagers how to pull heparin, and we were teaching them how to measure it. And the little kids, every time they pushed the blood pressure button, they would say, I just saved Aunt Stina's life. I just saved Aunt Stina. And for the first time
oh,
ever in my life at that time, dialysis became what it truly is. This is a life saving device
Yes.
that we should all celebrate, that we have the option to be able to do. And
absolutely.
that day, my family got to be a part of that. And they got to see, my nieces and nephews got to see that you don't quit, you keep fighting and you make it work. So,
What a great message. Well, and I was going to ask, like,
Yep.
how do you, and you kind of answered this, so let's maybe start with Melissa. How do you handle social situations? I mean, you're doing PD at night, so I imagine that people don't necessarily even need to know that you're doing PD because you do not have a hospital in your house. But do you have to work around that socially? Do you tell people or do you choose not to tell people?
I think I tell everybody that will listen, hey, I do PD dialysis at night, so I must attend to my baby every night. And so when they're scheduling events, some of my friends and family have done events during the daytime as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to doing them at night.
Oh, so
When
you
there's
can be
things
there. That's
Yeah,
great.
and when things happen with my family at night, like when they have, say they have a 7 o'clock uh game and I'm not feeling well or I'm not really feeling up to it, then they know the reason why I'm not there is usually because I just wasn't feeling up to it. I had been maybe running all the 2 days prior, and now I need to recover. So a lot of times when I'm not at something, the key word I've used with my friends and family is that tonight I need to recover, or I'm in recovery mode. And
Mm-hmm.
so I can mentally kind of shut down for the day and maybe meditate or do word search or do Sudoku or just relax and just make sure that my home was taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, my family is really, my parents were really, really, really curious in the beginning. And so we watched a lot of videos in the very beginning
Oh.
to see what dialysis would look like. And that's how I knew more. And I was like, okay, great. And then they asked me questions and they asked me how I feel. Sometimes my mom cooks me dinner and
Oh.
packs it up and drops it off. And because she know I've been busy being Gigi, right, with the grandkids and all of that, and she's like, I know you've been running a lot, and she cooks for me, and it makes me feel so good. And she's aware, right? Don't cook with a lot of sodium,
Mm-hmm.
and she
Mm-hmm.
customizes that. And then I want to say my whole family now is saying, well, how much sodium does that have? And it makes me happy that one little thing that I've said, right, has just gone so viral in my family.
We have a question from somebody on Facebook, and since you both done PD, maybe you have some thoughts for this person. They're looking for direct drain solutions to the main sewage line, like a hose through the floor. And who would you go to for that type of question? My first take would be a plumber, but that's just me. And Jen, you may have some thoughts about this too.
Yeah. Um, so I would either go with a plumber. The other thing you can ask is if there's advice from your clinic as to where they usually run the lines. If it's PD, most of the time I know you do want to if you want to get it to go directly through the floor, you're probably going to need to get a plumber to tap into it unless you're way handier than me. Some people do just use a regular drain or a toilet or a sink. I have had people take a piece of PVC pipe and insert that through a wall, thread the drain line through it, and then put that into the toilet or the drain in case you're worried about tripping on lines across your floor. There's all kinds
Good,
of
good
solutions
point.
people have come up with for that.
Well,
It
and
kind of depends on your space.
do you guys, when, as long as we're talking about drains, do you pour bleach down your drain at any point, with any particular frequency? Because I know sometimes that can be an issue to pour the
Yeah,
PD.
on hemo it would be because you can get that buildup. But on PD, as if you're going through the toilet line, you're really it's the same.
Yeah,
Okay.
on
If with
hemo, you are supposed to clean it ever so often because you can get buildup and you don't want that thing to back up. But yeah, so you want to be on top of that. You want to make sure there's nothing in the line and it is clean. And there are reusable lines. There are also ones that are throwaway lines. So you can use, like, I travel a lot, and so I take those lines with me when I go and travel. And so those are just a one-time use. So yeah, it's flexible.
Do
and with
you?
me with the PD, my drain line is either at first it used to be in the tub, and then after I moved, I changed it, and now I just connect it to the toilet. And I tape it to the toilet really nice and secure, and it works. So I do though sometimes put bleach in my toilet bowl so
Mm-hmm.
that the buildup from the sugar, right,
Right.
doesn't get,
Right.
Right.
there. And so yes, I do that
Yeah.
in my toilet bowl because like I said, I want to keep it as clean and as aseptic as possible.
So, I mean, if we get any more questions, we're happy to answer them, but otherwise, how do you both balance self-care and your home dialysis? How do you get some me time? How do you, just kind of stay in balance as a person? And let's sort of,
I just call mine the recovery, like I said, and for
yeah,
me,
yeah,
because the kids have so much going on, and I sometimes do with doctor's appointments, going to the lab,
love.
and so trying to balance it all, right? Taking care of my parents. My
Hmm.
daughter had just had a C-section, and so
Oh,
there's a
wow.
new grandbaby, and my other daughter was a cheerleader, so trying to balance it all. I think it's giving yourself permission to take a pause and stop,
Hmm.
like shut it all
Hmm.
down for a day. If there's a game and you just can't make it because you've been busting your chops all week, then give yourself permission to not be at everything. It's okay. And give yourself permission to say, I'm going to take care of me today. I'm going to make me some hot tea. I'm going to sip it. I'm going to watch me a movie all the way through without interruptions. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to
Hmm.
go window
Hmm.
shopping, or for me, I'm going to take care of my 233 plants or not, right? So whatever makes your heart
You're
happy.
keeping 233 plants alive?
I
That
am
is
also a
impressive.
crazy
Wow.
house plant lady, and I am so glad that you have a number.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
I'm impressed.
and so I
I
stopped
can
counting. So
kill them
I don't
like
count.
nobody's business.
And
Me
people
too.
call me to rescue their
I'll
plants. So
bet.
I
Oh
got a
my
rescue I'm going to do on Friday because
gosh.
people say, this plant no longer makes me happy, or this plant
Oh.
doesn't do well here, or I thought I was going to like it, but I bought it and I don't like it. Or so whatever the case may be, I think the city now calls me the plant lady, but now it's the rescue plant lady.
It's
And I
probably just
love
as well
it.
it isn't puppies, right?
Yes.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Yes, 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 yes. Not as well because,
At
like you
least,
said, some days
yeah,
it's really hard. It's like, oh my God, I'm exhausted, and so um, I do what brings me joy for my self help. Whatever
yeah,
little thing it is that brings you joy, find out what it is. Do that thing. If you want to do Sudoku all day, do Sudoku all day. But the self care, the self recovery, being that place is critically important to the success of who you are. Like
yeah.
you have to give yourself some time. I give time to baby every night to clean my kidneys every night. Okay, but what about me? What am I giving me every day? What am I giving me every night? That really matters. If you had to put it on your schedule, hey, this is going to be a self help day, or it's going to be a me day, then put it on your schedule to take care of you is so important.
All right. And I would love to have Christina answer this. And she also mentioned what might end up being a good tip for you, which is that dialysis waste fluid can make really good fertilizer. So with that many plants, maybe you don't need to drain
Maybe
into the toilet.
outside.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It is
Maybe you drain
crazy
that into
good.
a pitcher and, pour it around. So
Oh
Christina,
yeah.
what do you do for me time and giving yourself grace?
So, I actually I do a lot of traveling, and to me,
Yeah.
honestly, for me, like I push myself to do a lot, and I allow myself to have my down moments. I always say I can have them and I can feel through them, but I got to get out of them. And so I don't let myself go there and dwell there.
Hmm.
And so for me, I really have a thirst for letting people know about their options of dialysis. And so for me,
Me
like
too.
being able to do webinars, being able to go to events and talk to doctors and let them know how much this changes our lives as patients. that's my fuel. And so truly that's my solace. Every time I sit down with a patient and they say, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore. And then you say, hey, there's this thing called PD. And they say, oh my gosh, like, that to me is that's what gets me through those moments when I get sad. So I inspire every patient, take what you're doing and become an advocate, help somebody else and inspire someone else because
Yeah,
it truly is, it will soothe you and it will help you to get through these down moments so much
yeah.
better.
That
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
fills you up. I still remember the fella in one of the Facebook groups who was he was just struggling with, well, which option should I do? What's going to fit? What will work best? And I said, well, what's important to you? What do you really like to do? And he's like, oh, I love to fix motorcycles. I can fix any kind of motorcycle. I just want to still be able to work on motorcycles. And I said, you might consider PD because, as long as you can wash your hands, you're going to have level energy from day to day and you should still be able to fix your motorcycles. And he picked it and he was able to and he loved it. And I thought, fit. The thing we're
Yeah.
forgetting is fit. What fits your life right now? And
Mhm.
that can change. And it's okay if it changes. Your life changes, your option can change. But that concept of fit is something that we need, I think, more of.
I always tell people like it's kind of like your accesses. Like, how do I pick a fistula or a graft or a CVC? And it's gonna ebb and flow throughout your time. Sometimes you're gonna have a CVC and that's just gonna be it. Sometimes you're gonna have an option to have a graft. Like again, like it's just like modalities. Open your mind to these ideas that you may have to have a CVC and learn how to take care of a CVC. I've had a CVC for 3 years, and that's a choice I personally made, and I wouldn't do it any other way. But that again, that's me teaching myself and doing the homework myself and finding out what works best for me. So,
When you
uh,
when you first start on dialysis, and I'm so agreeing with Christina, it's like learning a new language, right?
Absolutely.
Like there's so much alphabet soup, PD, CAPD, HD,
uh-huh,
there's so many what I call there's so much alphabet soup that
acronyms, yeah.
yes, learn it so that you know what people are talking about. If you hear a word you don't know, write it down. And Google is your friend, or Siri is your friend. Learn the language, and it's so much to learn. But when you learn, you become empowered. The more you know, the more you can make those what we call informed decisions. Because now you have researched all the options, you know what they are, and you're like, oh, like she said, like George said, what fits? What fits for you? What makes you feel good? What's important to you?
Mhm.
And once you understand that you have choices, and this is the other piece that I think that I want to make sure that people hear that finding an environment that supports your choices. If
Yeah.
your
Yes,
particular doctor doesn't support your choices, then
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to get another doctor. Like
it
it's
is.
okay to make sure that your choices are at least heard and you
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
get what you need for your life. Some people feel like I can change doctors. By God, yes you can, as my
Yeah.
daddy would say.
What's
You can
what's
change
funny is
doctors.
I didn't know the whole time I was in center. I didn't know you can change centers. And I found out later in life that you can actually like go and check out the center you want. Go and talk to your nurses, go talk to the teams and decide which team is going to best fit you. Be be your own advocate and I advise to every single patient out there.
Absolutely.
Please
You
don't do this
Absolutely.
do,
alone. Please don't
yeah.
do this alone. Get on a support group. Get get where other patients are. See how other people are doing it. Ask questions. Just kind of embrace the family that is dialysis patients because we really do help each other out a lot.
Absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
so glad you asked that because I missed that question and I actually had it on my list to ask, which is how do you connect with other patients for support and advice and how and where are you finding them? So that's a question. And then Terrain has a question about PD and travel, but um,
Do you want us to answer the one question first or go with the other? The
yeah,
travel?
let's just quick, do you have places that you recommend that folks find each other?
I'm a bias. I have a bias. So my husband runs a support group, guys. It's called Living on Dialysis. And the reason I call it Living on Dialysis is because truly I'm living on
Yeah,
dialysis.
yeah,
Right.
And
absolutely.
Yes.
and on that page, we try our best to motivate people to get them out and live. All these people, this is not a death sentence. This is not a go get stuck in one spot and be told what to do. You guys just embrace this and be
It's
the
a
best you
it's a
can.
life sentence.
It is
Um,
a life. It's a life sentence, and I'm
yeah.
gonna agree with Christina. I love her and her husband's Facebook group, and there are several different Facebook groups out there that you can get on, and people
Mhm.
can actually tell you what's going on with their lives. And for me, I just kind of sat back and I watched for a long time, like what's appearing here, what's being said, what people showing, and people are actually showing their whole heart. They showing when they succeed. They're showing when they have a opportunity, I call it, challenge. They're showing all of it, and so you are getting raw, uncensored, real information, so that people are like bearing their souls, like
And
for no
and you
reason
get
other than to help someone else.
and you get our tips and tricks, like there are a
Right.
lot of us, and I do know a lot of the next stage advocates are really, they're out there online and they love to chat. So
Yeah,
just reach out to any of us.
Yeah.
We will love
Okay.
to,
absolutely,
And
we'd love to talk to
absolutely.
you.
we have a group with for Home Dialysis Central that I think we started. I don't actually remember what year we started it, but we have 8,000 members and really a
Wow.
lot of long-term experts who know PD and home hemo really well. Jen is a moderator and she's a nurse, and we have social workers and we have other nurses. We have some nephrologists who hang out there, but they never say anything. They're just
Yeah.
lurking, like, thanks,
Yep.
guys. So let's quick answer the travel question, which was basically when you're doing PD, when you travel, do you take your cycler with you or do you switch over to manuals?
When I travel, at first I was like really afraid to travel, right? I had been traveling forever, right? But it's easy. But now I was like, oh my God, what would I do? And so I created me my own checklist to make sure, like, what am I using when I do dialysis every night, and I put everything on the list. And then when I talked to my nurse about traveling, she told me how far in advance to order my supplies.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, there's an additional charge, which no one wants to pay. And so when I travel, first time was by car to Tennessee for the family reunion, and I carried my cycler with me. My nurse gave me like this pre-padded big suitcase, and so I carried my cycler with me. The second time I flew, which was my first time flying with the cycler, and I carried it on as well, and they tucked it under for medical supplies under the airplane. And so the only key thing that I would definitely stress when traveling is to plan out your trip so that you know how far in advance you must order your supplies. Do your
Yeah,
checklist, maybe do it
that
three
can
or
be
four
an
times.
unhappy surprise to have
Oh
to
my
pay the
goodness.
delivery
Yes,
fee.
yes. Like I say, you have to for me, I had to use my organizational skills, right?
Yeah,
Like, what am
yeah,
I packing? And make sure you get every little thing that you think you might need. And I put
Yep.
everything in Ziploc bags that I needed for my travel, for my dialysis. And both times it worked out really well because I had packed way probably I probably packed about a month and a half in advance, maybe, right? But that's just me. Just to make sure I got everything. I didn't want to run out of anything. So just
So
plan ahead.
I've traveled on PD and hemo,
hmm,
and on PD, I've traveled short term in cars and just taken it in a soft case. But you can also, at your center, you can borrow a hard case to fly with it. And what's cool is PD you can carry on. So that's nice. Chemo's a bit bigger and it's heavier, so you can't take it as a carry-on. So you can check it, but it also there's a container you can get from your center that you can get, and you put it on some wheels and you just take it with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It's medical supplies travel free. They need to be labeled. You need to know your rights. Next
Yes.
Stage has some great handouts on that. We have a really good one on Home Dialysis Central about how to travel with PD or home hemo. And whatever suitcases or boxes or whatever that you load up that have medical supplies have to only have medical supplies. They can't have anything else in them.
Yep.
But it is doable. People do it. They fly, they
And
take cruises, they go on
I'll have you
trains.
guys I'll have you guys know I went to Puerto Rico and
Yay.
it was short. I found out about it in short notice, and so there was not enough time to ship everything. So I did call and contact the airlines, and they let me bring 14 boxes
Nice,
to the airport and my machine, and it all flew for free.
right? That is
Wow.
so great.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we're all waiting for the machines that will make online fluids so that maybe
Yeah.
the numbers of
Yeah.
bags and boxes that you need to store will be less, but we're not there yet.
Everything is possible. Anything is
Ev-
possible.
but
Exactly.
everything is getting better, guys. It's just a matter of time.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And Terrain also said they're trying to figure it out for a cruise, and they're a little concerned that the cycler might have an error while they're out in the middle of the ocean, which I could see.
If it does, just shut it off and do dialysis the next day.
Okay. And
You can
Yeah,
always
that
go
could work.
manual. You can always do manual instead of taking your cycler. You can
true.
do manual on the ship.
Right.
And if you're frightened about the cycler, take a couple manuals with you as backup to give
Yeah.
you more confidence.
That is not a bad
And
idea because you
and it
can
is
never let machines know that you're anxious or they will get you.
and it's never a bad idea when you
Indoors?
travel to reach out to a clinic where you are traveling and let them know, hey, I'm traveling in your area.
Yeah.
If I forget something or I don't have enough fluid, can I call you and work that out ahead of time? And with a cruise, you'll know where you're porting, and
Mhm.
you can check that out as well. And I have traveled on a cruise with dialysis, and I'm telling you, it went perfect and it's amazing. So you're gonna love it.
Excellent. Well, we actually had such a great discussion that we're over the time a little bit, which is absolutely fine with me. You know, if we have nothing else to say, we end a little early. If we have lots and lots to say, we go a little over. That's fine. Thank you both for all of your wonderful comments. I want to see if Jen has anything to add since she has helped folks who've done PD and home hemo. If you don't,
Oh,
that's
I
okay too.
wish I did. I just gave all my last advice to Terrain.
All right, Jen is fresh out of advice, but I did put the link to our previous webinars that are on Home Dialysis Central. This one will be on Home Dialysis Central as soon as, we spiff it up. And I don't know, I don't think it needs a lot of editing. I think it's pretty great the way it is. So it's probably going to be on there pretty darn soon. But that way, if you want to refer back to it, if you want to see Christina's site or whatever, you'll be able to find it again. And I hope you all have a wonderful day and you think about your choices. You always have choices, and you can choose to make choices about your treatment that make your life work. And that's what it's all about.
And
Absolutely.
a motto to live by. Tell people, don't tell me I can't, show me how I can.
Love it. Yep. So
I
true.
always have choice. Yes, I
Where there's
always
a will,
have
there's a
choice.
way.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Make good choices,
all.
people.
absolutely.
Bye.
You
Thank
all.
you. Bye,
Bye,
ladies.
guys.
Bye bye. Take care.
Take care.